Giving to charity goes up at Christmas time. Many of us, secretly repulsed by our gluttonous orgy of collective servitude to next February's landfill delivery, yearn for a better use for our money. Bombarded by advertisements, sometimes a thought peeps through the fog of amplified desire: what if we used our money to do some good in the world rather than fill it with more and more meaningless crap? But how to make the most effective difference? In a central London pub this week, I joined 100 or so young people who meet up regularly to talk about precisely this: what might a data-driven approach to doing good look like? The effective altruism movement emerged around the start of this decade in Oxford. The big idea is to encourage a broadly utilitarian/rationalist approach to doing good, and it is particularly aimed at graduate higher earners who have more money to give and who thus, on a utilitarian calculus, can achieve more. This approach has proved particularly attractive to those with backgrounds in maths and computer science, and chapters of effective altruists have sprung up in Silicon Valley, New York and London, with many pledging at least 10% of their income to charity. I expected not to like them as much as I did. As a philosophy of moral action, I find utilitarianism hopelessly flat-footed. Yes, it comes in various versions, but a blinkered concern for the greatest happiness of the greatest number can always be used to justify moral outrages. For example, what if an overall increase in the total sum of human happiness, or some other unit of well-being, could be brought about by murdering an innocent man? Would his murder be justified? Obviously, not. And by treating all human beings as units of one, no room is given to make moral sense of our preference for our families over total strangers. Utilitarianism is a concern for people in general rather than for people in particular, and this bothers me because much of our moral concern grows out of the specificity of our relationships. It's called empathy. Would you really save a large bag of cash from a burning building rather than your neighbor's terrified child, even if you could donate that cash and save the lives of 1,000 strangers? I am not so sure I would. At the end of his famous 1973 study of utilitarianism, Bernard Williams declared that the day cannot be too far off in which we hear no more of it. But on this he was wrong. The reduction of morality to a data-driven calculation has proved especially attractive in an age where STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths, disciples are making so much of the cultural running. Despite my reservations, there is still much to commend it. I'd prefer to give my money to a dual-MIG program, argued one woman in the pub, rather than to guide dogs for the blind. Indeed, a charity like Schistosomiasis Control Initiative that runs programs against parasitic worms has a far wider impact than training a dog for a single blind person. There is a hard-headedness here that I find both attractive and disappointing at the same time. Attractive because it cuts through the sentimentality that so often drives our charitable giving, making it more about the beneficiaries of our money than our own need for warm and fuzzy feelings, and yet also disappointing because it forces all human need to express itself on a single comparable scale because of the giver's rather nerdish requirement that the world possess some sort of measurable order. Effective altruists are mostly in their mid to late 20s, male, white, middle class, and highly idealistic.